Let's be honest, most people don't struggle with literature search because they are bad at it. They struggle because no one teaches how to search strategically. So what happens? You type a few words into PubMed. You get 5,000 papers. You read 5, you feel lost, and you assume, I must be missing something. You are. In this video, we're going to fix that. By the end of this episode, you'll know how to define what you're actually looking for. Search smarter, not harder. Identify the most important papers fast. Track novelty like a reviewer. Defining the research scope. Before you open PubMed, Google Scholar, or any scientific database, pause for a moment. Ask yourself one simple question. What decision am I trying to make? Most people start literature searching with vague goals like, I want to learn about the microbiome, or, I want to read about diabetes. But those are topics, not research goals. A clear search always begins with purpose. So instead, ask yourself, am I designing an experiment? Am I writing a grant? Am I preparing a review article? Or am I checking whether an idea is novel? Because your objective determines what kind of papers you actually need. For example, if you're planning an experiment, you should focus on mechanisms, experimental methods, and model systems. If you're writing a review, your priority changes. Now you're looking for trends, conflicting evidence, and research gaps. The same field, but completely different search strategies. Here's the reality. If you don't define your scope clearly, you won't find better papers, you'll just find more papers. And more papers without direction leads to confusion, not knowledge. Experienced scientists don't start with databases. They start with a decision. Keyword search versus concept search. This is where most people make their biggest mistake when searching the literature. They rely only on keywords. What does that mean? They type exactly what they're thinking. Something like, gut microbiome aging inflammation. And yes, you'll get results. But you'll also get a lot of noise. Why? Because scientific research often uses different words to describe the same idea. If you search only one phrase, you miss important papers that use different terminology. This is why experienced researchers use something called concept searching. You don't search words, you search ideas. Start by breaking your research question into 3 components: the intervention, the outcome, the model system. For example, instead of searching probiotic cognitive aging, think in concepts. Your intervention could include probiotic, postbiotic, or microbial metabolite. Your outcome might be cognition, memory, or neuroinflammation. Your model could be mouse, human, aging population, or elderly subjects. Now you rotate and combine these concepts in different ways. And suddenly, you begin to discover papers you would never have found with simple keyword searches. This approach doesn't just give you more papers. It gives you the right papers, including the hidden ones that often matter the most. Citation chaining, the secret weapon. Here's a skill that truly separates beginners from experienced researchers. Once you find one good paper, stop searching randomly. Instead, use that paper as a gateway. There are 2 powerful steps. The first is called backward citation chaining. Go to the reference list of the paper and look carefully. Ask yourself, which studies do the authors rely on the most? Which references appear repeatedly across the introduction and discussion? Those papers are often the foundational work in that field. They tell you where the scientific story really began. The second step is forward citation chaining. Now you ask a different question. Who has cited this paper since it was published? These newer papers often represent extensions of the findings, confirmations of the results, or sometimes even contradictions. And those contradictions can be incredibly valuable, because they reveal uncertainty, debate, and research gaps. Here's the important part. This single strategy can replace hours of unfocused searching. In fact, many high-impact and highly relevant papers are discovered through citation networks, not keyword searches. Experienced scientists don't just search databases. They follow the scientific conversation. Review articles versus original studies. Here's a simple rule every researcher should remember. Use review articles to understand the field. Use original studies to make decisions. Review papers are extremely useful. They help you see the big picture. They summarize trends, and they often highlight gaps in knowledge. But there's an important limitation. Reviews interpret research through the author's perspective. That means conclusions can be filtered, simplified, or biased toward a certain narrative. Original research papers are different. They show you the actual data, the experimental methods, and the limitations of the study. This is where real scientific evidence lives. So if you are designing an experiment, developing a hypothesis, or making any research decision, always go back to the original paper. And here's a critical habit. Never cite a review article for a result you did not personally verify in the primary study. Because good science depends on evidence, not summaries. Tracking novelty like a reviewer. This is one of the most important concepts in research. Novelty does not mean, has anyone ever studied this before? That's a common misconception. Real novelty is more specific. It means asking, has this question been tested in this particular way? In this model system, with this outcome measurement? Because often, the topic exists, but the approach is new. So how do you check novelty effectively? Start by sorting papers by publication date. Focus especially on the last 2 to 5 years. Then look for what has changed. New methods, new models, new hypotheses, and ask yourself 2 powerful questions. What is everyone doing in a similar way? And what is no one doing? That second question is where innovation lives. That's where your research opportunity exists. Because science advances not by repeating what is known, but by exploring what is missing. Here's how this looks in practice. Start with one recent review. Identify 2 to 3 key original papers. Use citation chaining. Narrow to high relevance studies. Within 30 minutes, you should know what is known, what is debated, what is missing. Here's one final tip that can save your sanity as a researcher. Do not rely on memory. And definitely do not rely on dozens of open browser tabs. Instead, use a reference manager. It doesn't have to be complicated. At a minimum, you should organize papers by topic. Add a one-line note about why the paper matters. And tag it based on relevance to your project. Because research is cumulative. You may read a paper today, but need it again 6 months later. And when that moment comes, you don't want to search for it all over again. A simple system now will save you hours in the future. Your future self will truly thank you. Smart literature search is not about reading more papers. It's about reading the right papers. If you define your scope, search concepts, not words. Use citation chaining. Separate reviews from data. Track novelty intentionally. You will move faster than 90% of researchers. In the next episode, we'll show how to identify real gaps in knowledge and turn them into testable hypotheses. That's where science becomes powerful. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Your support helps us create more content that makes science easier to understand and apply. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming episodes in this series. We'll see you in the next video.